And action! Welcome back to Show and Tell. I'm Billie. In just about a week, I'm off to Rhinebeck. I was there for the first time last year, had a great time. This year, it's a special treat for me because it's my birthday, so I won't feel guilty at all about shopping for yarn. Not that I need a lot of yarn, but in this episode, I'm going to share with you a couple of projects that I'll be shopping for. But I also want to show you an acquisition that I just fell into thanks to a gift from a friend of mine, and I'll explain. My friend Susie, who lives in a place called Altoona, Pennsylvania, near the famous, world famous, they say, Horseshoe Curve. It's a piece of railroad track that goes around in a U shape. So if you're at the front of the train, you can see the tail of the train out your window. It's kind of a cool thing. I've ridden on it. Anyway, she was a second grade teacher for many years, and she had a student a while back who has gone on to write a play that's now off Broadway. So she came into town to see this play, and lo and behold, brought me this beautiful gift, totally unexpectedly. Near to where she lives is a farm called Underhill Farm. They raise sheep and goats, and she brought me not one, not two, but 3 skeins of this gorgeous mohair, 100% mohair. So it's not the type of mohair that we're accustomed to seeing that's with silk. This is all mohair. Haven't knit with anything like that. It's very soft. It almost feels like silk. And it has little particles. It's very off the farm. The labels are adorable because it gives their address. It's 250 yards. It says it's 2-ply sport. And it gives the names of the goats, I guess. Andrea, Stanley, Paulette, Bob, Daisy, Liza M, Dee Dee, and Marguerite. So this color is super spectacular, beautiful, gorgeous. Love it beyond love. I can't even tell you how much I love it. I put it in the league with that chenille, the color of the chenille. I think that's what inspired her to select this color. And I think the guys at the farm may have also seen my lamenting about the chenille and the trouble I was having. Anyway, I had just been to a very unusual poster exhibit of Art Deco posters that were used in the 20s and 30s for advertisements. And there was one advertisement for a car. I'll insert a picture of it here. It had 2 shades of blue and silver. And I thought, this is even before she gave me this yarn. I thought, I love those 2 colors. I'm going to take a copy of this poster. I took a photograph of it, bring it to Rhinebeck with me, and see if I can find 2 yarns in those shades. This is as close to one of the shades as I think I would have been able to find. So I'm probably going to bring a little snippet of this with me so I can try and match something up to it, either slightly lighter or slightly darker. And I'll show you a picture of the pattern that I think I want to make. I mean, it's the same pattern I was trying with the chenille, but I'll put a picture of it here. Since the chenille was an epic fail, as you might remember, I'm going to try and make that sweater with a different yarn. Other things that I'm going to be shopping for at Rhinebeck are buttons. That's why I have this unfinished project hanging here. If you've watched this podcast from its inception, you might remember seeing this 1940s jacket. I seem to really love things that are two-tone. This is also two-tone. I don't know exactly what is preventing me from finishing this because it's just stunning. I mean, it really could have been my Rhinebeck sweater if I got my act together. This sleeve is knit. It's just a matter of attaching it. One of the pockets is on, but I'm lacking the buttons. So I have these buttonholes, and I put stitch markers here to indicate where the buttons will go. What I intend to do in order to match up buttons is bring this is not a swatch, this is my second pocket. But I'm going to bring this to Rhinebeck with me. There's a vendor who I hope will be there since she wasn't at Vogue Knitting Live this past February. She was ill. So I'm hoping to see Dusty's Vintage Buttons. I think there's another button vendor at Rhinebeck who I haven't seen that I might seek out. But I'll have this with me so I can match up the color. And I'll mark on here with stitch markers the width of my buttonhole, because I'd like to try and match up some buttons that will coordinate with this. Another thing that I'm planning to do is bring little swatches of fabric with me. The new yarn, for example, that my friend just gifted me, I'm going to take a small bit of it. Maybe I'll swatch with it, I don't know, but I'm going to bring that with me. Instead of bringing the whole skein, I'm just going to bring a little bit of it wound up in a little butterfly so that I can get a sense of color when I hold it up to other colors. The same thing for my dash site. I left the two buttonholes here. I'm going to measure this and take a swatch of this fabric with me and take a swatch of this yarn with me. Instead of bringing the whole jacket, I'll have a chunk of it. Maybe I still have my swatch. If I swatch, I probably did swatch. I'd have to look. Anyway, I will have the yarn with me so I can try and match up a button. And of course, I always have my phone with me, and I have access to Ravelry. I think their internet isn't so strong there, but with any luck, I'll be able to pull up my Ravelry project page for this. And I'd like to find two buttons, something silver maybe, or if there's like an abalone that's got this coloring. We'll see. I have to see what she's got, but I certainly want something that's vintage looking to complete this look. I have the map from last year's booklet, and I'm familiarizing myself again with where things are. The first time you're there, it seems overwhelming and daunting. But let me hold this up. So if you're going for the first time and you haven't seen this online, you can have a look at this. Some of these buildings have animals in them. I know that my button person is in this building, and I have mentioned before, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate, if you're going to be there, please look for me. I will be on this hill that's referred to as Podcasters Hill. You'll see a lot of other podcasters there as well. But I will be there on Saturday around 12 or 12:30. So please, please look for me. Also, let me know in the comments if you're planning to be there so I can keep an eye out for you too. So last year, I took business cards from places that I thought were very interesting. I wasn't shopping so much last year. I had just come back from Scotland and had bought a little bit of yarn there, so I wasn't in the market for anything. I think the only thing I bought were those ergonomic knitting needles, but I did see a lot of things that interested me, and I kept the cards of a select number of places that I would like to go back to. And I think it's a lot of the same vendors year after year. So I will be going back to Laughingstock. This man was the most darling man. For, I think he said 400 years, his family has lived in this locale, not too far from Rhinebeck. And he breeds traditional English South Downs. They're the cutest sheep because they're very compact. They're short, fat, round, roly-poly, and they have the cutest face. Look at this. So I would love to buy yarn from him. He's a very small maker of yarn, but a lot of his sheep are beige, and beige is not my palette. So he said once in a while he gets something that's a little grayish. I will go and give him a shake just in case. Maybe this year he's got something that's leaning towards ivory or some kind of pearl gray, grayish. Maybe I'll get lucky, because I think that I have something in mind for his wools. They're not delicate, as I recall. They're soft, but they're chunky-ish. So I have to go back and have a look. It was just intriguing to chat with him last year, so I want to go back and have another visit with him. There was also someone called Yellow Dog Farm, and I made a note on their card. They had gorgeous colors, and it's one of the only places I've seen where they do the different types of yarn. She had boucle, I think she had mohair, merino, all different bases in the same color. So if you wanted to do a stripe of merino and a stripe of a matching mohair, it could be really elegant. So again, I didn't need it last year, but this year I might take a look again, especially if she has some beautiful color. And I believe that she would do custom orders for a specific color that you want. So since I'm so color encumbered, I don't know what else to call it. I mean, color is really a big deal for me. Other people are just happy to knit with whatever the shade of orange is, but no, for me, it's got to be like exactly. Anyway, we'll go look at her again. Then there was a place called Autumn Fiberworks. I don't think that I read this card so carefully last year. They're in downtown Punxsutawney. If you follow the news on what is Groundhog's Day, February 2nd, it's Punxsutawney Pete. They go to this town to find Punxsutawney Pete or Punxsutawney Phil. Oh boy, I think it's Punxsutawney Pete. The groundhog, to see if he comes out of his cave. So they had just all kinds of really unusual things. They didn't have like a wall of one base in a variety of colors. No, every skein was kind of like a unique experience, very unusual. So I'll go look and see what they're up to. And then Morehouse Farm. The people are just so lovely, and they do have a lot of colors, and they have a lot of bases. They have lace, 2-ply, 3-strand, bulky, I don't know what gator is, and a lot of different colorways. So I'll go back and see what they're up to. They might just have the perfect shade of blue to coordinate with this. We'll see. What I'm wearing, let me stand up again, just in case you've forgotten. This is the Elsa Schiaparelli bow knot sweater that I ran to Paris in January to see. I'll put a link here so you can go back and check out that episode. What I'm currently working on is a free pattern from Pearl Soho designed by Catherine Lee Abrams. It's called the Hollyhock Wrap. And now you can see I've made a lot of progress in this herringbone stitch. What really caught my eye about the pattern is this motif that reminds me so much of the hollyhock flowering plant. So here's how much I've got so far. I started with 4 skeins of this yarn. This is the equivalent of 1 skein. So I had 4, and now I still have these 2 that are unused and 2 that are partially used. You hold it double. So I still have quite a bit left from my first 2 skeins, but I'll know when I finish these 2 that I'm halfway through. This wrap is made in 2 parts, and then you graft them together. So when I'm finishing up these, I can start my other half using these. Now, because I live in a small Manhattan apartment, I've said this before, I don't have a Swift or a ball winder. Sometimes, if the timing is right, I'm able to use the free winders at Vogue Knitting Live, but that's only once a year that we're in person there. So I looked up on YouTube a couple of different ways of hand winding. I know how to wind a ball since I'm a young child, but I like to do center pull. So I specifically wanted a hand wound center pull. And I found 2 different ways. One of them involved an empty toilet paper roll. What you do, let me find something to wind onto here. I'm going to unwind from the outside of this because I don't have anything else simply hanging around. I guess I could have also pulled it from the center, but so essentially what you do is you cut a slit here and a slit opposite it. So you have a slit on each side. And you drape your yarn down and then through these 2 slits. So there's my yarn. This is the end, and this is the part that I'm going to be winding. And you start by just wrapping it around a bunch of times until you have a wad forming here. Always keep this end in your hand so that you don't lose it in the winding, because that's going to be your center that you're going to pull from. Once you get a thick enough chunk here, then you start winding on an angle. And you keep turning this, and you keep winding on the same 45-degree angle. And you keep turning and winding. And eventually this is going to bulk up and you'll have a cake or a ball. In my case, it turned out to be a ball. I'm trying to finesse it so that I get a cake so that it won't roll around. But that was one method. Let me take this off. And then when you're done, you just slide it off of here and pull this out. So that's one method. Another method I saw, you hold the end here, you wrap it around your thumb and your index finger until you have a little bit of a mass formed. Then you remove it and put your thumb in there. So your thumb is kind of like a miniature toilet paper roll. And now you're going to do that same thing. Wind on an angle and turn it. And as this gets bigger, you have more to hold on to. It's easier to turn it. But if you just keep doing this 45-degree angle and turning it the same direction, after like 4 or 5 wraps, turn it. If you're using a thicker yarn, it's really easy to see the pattern emerge. But you can see that this is starting to become like a cake. Another way that I've seen is to use a Sharpie in the center. So I guess you get an even smaller hole, although my thumb isn't that big. So here it's starting to cake up. Anyway, that's my little tip of the week for you. When I got to the end of my skein, I went into the center pull, pulled out a bunch, mushed it up, and shoved it in here so that when I get to knitting from this, it'll be easy for me to just pull that out and have my end to get started. Even the commercially produced yarns have that yarn barf effect. I don't know if I'm going to have that. This is the first time I've done such a large amount of yarn like this. This is over 400 yards. So here I am. I want to rewind this onto here so you can see what I'm doing when I'm doing it in a larger size. Turning, turning, turning. So kind of like winding up a ball, but this has a center pull. Okay, so this end, this is the outside end. You can just lift up a few strands of this and tuck it under. And you'll see it if you wanted to. And you'll see it there. If you want to knit from the outside and the inside at the same time, you're set up to do that. It took a while. And what I did was I hung the skein around my neck, and then I just went around and unraveled it periodically a couple of times, because with yarn this thin, it's a little bit of a sticky yarn. I just did not want to have tangles, knots, been there, done that. I did not want to repeat it with something this precious. Not only fine, but there's a lot of it, and I don't want to waste even an inch of it. So I invested the time to make the ball so I shouldn't have any headaches. You know, I'm always having to rip stuff out. I do not intend to rip this out, because one beautiful thing about knitting a scarf is that there's no size. Yay. I am getting approximately their gauge, so at least I know I'm going to have something that's 16 inches wide, like the pattern calls for. I know that this won't be done in time for Rhinebeck, so don't be expecting to see that. I haven't quite decided. Maybe I'll finish this and just have no buttons. I don't know. I don't know. There's so much to think about planning, you know, this long day. I don't know if I mentioned last time that I found a handful of other women to chip in with, and someone else other than myself is organizing this
ride for us all to go there, since I had such a nightmare last year with the transportation situation, taking the train and having to get a taxi. I thought this would be like a much more leisurely thing. Someone else will be driving. I'll be able to knit. We're going to be, I think we're 6 knitters in the car, and I'm sure we're going to be sharing great stories. I won't be here next week because I'll be getting ready to go to Rhinebeck, but shortly after Rhinebeck, I'll put something together for you. It might be 2 weeks from now that I'll see you again, but until then, enjoy your knitting. If you enjoyed this episode, you know the drill. Please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, feel free to do so. And if you want to see more episodes like this, I'm going to put a link right here for you to go and see the whole catalog of prior episodes. Take care, everyone. Bye.